Welcome to the Evening Executive, the podcast where we discuss leadership strategies and approaches. Hosted by yours truly, Amber Earl. On today's episode, which so happens to be my inaugural episode, I will give my analysis on my top 5 leadership styles, approaches, and theories. I originally recorded my first episode and decided to scratch it and pivot. Why, you ask? I'll give you my answer in a second. Well, in a minute. But first, I want to take a quote from the book that I'm currently reading, titled Surrounded by Idiots. Yes, that is the actual title. Surrounded by Idiots, the 4 types of human behavior and how to effectively communicate with each in business and in life. Thomas Erickson. Being familiar with and understanding another person's behavior style and way of communicating means that your guesses become more sophisticated in terms of how that person might react in different situations. And for me, this makes a lot of sense. The reason why I decided to pivot and restart my podcast is because I traveled for work this week to Denver, to our corporate office. I work for a company, we just give the nickname HRM. And it's a biomedical company, biotech, biomed, medical device, however you want to label it, all of the above. And I went there for strategy planning, focus sessions, so we could have a successful 2026. The business grew. My particular brands grew over 20% from 2024 to 2025, which was great. And we have the opportunity to do even better this year, so we thought it would be a great idea just to get a jump start very early. But while I was there, my company did a mass layoff, which brought down the morale, had everybody on edge, and it's because you saw some great people that had a vast amount of knowledge when it came to analytics, engineering, new product inventory, what else? It was just a wide array of things, quality and sales, and it's just to see the knowledge go out the door. And it leaves you wondering, how are we supposed to pivot, come together, and be successful, and we're short-staffed? So I'll discuss these leadership styles and the approaches and traits based off of the communication that came from our directors and our C-suites. So let's get to it. I want to start with the situational approach. And the reason why I'm starting with the situational approach is because with this leadership style, it was the one that was at the forefront of the events that transpired Wednesday and Thursday. And I say that because each director, manager, or executive that I either spoke to, received an email from, or watched in a conference, all reacted or communicated the news very differently. For lower level managers, they were unaware of the events that were transpiring. So they were just as shocked as we were. But I can say, for instance, I had a meeting with my direct manager, and you could tell that it affected her in a way that she felt like we could get through it, but she was uncertain as to how. And she made a comment, and she was like, she wanted to tell us to cancel our trip to Denver and go at a later date, but she couldn't tell us not to do that because she felt like she probably would have gave it away, and they were held to confidentiality, so they couldn't let us know what was transpiring. My COO held a meeting, and in this meeting, he told us to reach out to those that were let go because this is a hard time for them and for us, and that they're going to need all of our support. But at the same time, in the same paragraph, in the same conference, this man stated that they did not align with the core values of the company, which is odd for me because these were people that, again, were great at their jobs, but what they did do was challenge the status quo. And when you are not yes people, sometimes they don't want to hear that. And from our CEO, she sent out an email in about two to four sentences and basically said it was unfortunate and we have to move forward. And that basically sums up how she handled the situation. And I don't even think she wrote her own couple sentences. So each manager handled, or each leader handled the situation differently. And by the end of the day, they were all smiling and we were all nervous. And I'll just stop there. The situational leadership theory suggests that there is one specific leadership style that works best, and instead it depends on which type of leadership and strategies fit best in the situation. K Cherry 2023. And that makes me wonder, is this relative to the situation that transpired this week? And as a matter of fact, I know it was relative, but we're going to start with the situational approach right here and transition into the transformational leadership theory. And we're going to discuss how this leadership theory is relative to the scenario that transpired, and this style, how it reminds me of my COO. The relationship leadership theory, also known as transformational leadership, is where leaders control situations by communicating a clear vision of the team's goals. Leaders under this theory are passionate and inspire positive change in those who follow them. K Cherry 2023. I said it was relative because, like I said, my COO held a conference to discuss next steps and strategies as we move forward after losing some vital people to the company. He was clear and concise on the company's core values and what it means to him and why we were all still here. But again, like I said previously, that these were some great workers, but what they did was challenge the status quo. And it's funny to me because I'm always challenging the status quo. I hit him with rapid fire questions as often as I can, but I also understand the vision and where the company is going, which I still do believe that the workers that were let go had the same vision and the same goals in mind as myself and my coworkers and the COO. But I also feel like if there was anybody within the company that could motivate you to move forward and just keep going to do your job, because at the end of the day, you're there to do a job, it was my COO. Do I think he is a great leader? Probably not, but he is a leader, and he stood at the forefront to discuss what happened, take accountability, and to try to motivate the team, even though he know the morale was down and may remain down for a while. And so in the climate that we're in work right now, it's going to take a lot more of him redefining and being clear and concise on what they are looking for, and just constantly trying to motivate the people to keep going, because it's disheartening when you lose a person that you work with daily and also the person that's a subject matter expert, and now you have to try to figure out what they did, how they did, and do it better, which makes your job even harder. And we'll stop here and move on to the next one. Top 10 traits of an effective leader. 1, an ability to empower and nurture others. 2, a clear and consistent focus on communication. 3, a high level of emotional intelligence. 4, superior problem solving skills. 5, general respect and empathy towards others. 6, an unmatched ability to actively listen. 7, the foresight to take and work and know when to delegate. 8, the ability to be flexible and adaptable while also taking accountability. 9, of course, when it comes to staying ahead of the curve. 10, an open-mindedness and clear-headed attitude. K. Ebby, 2022. And this brings me into the inclusive leadership theory. My direct manager is very inclusive. With everything that transpired this week, he really held us closely and talked us through it. Not only did she get in with us, she did a lot of the analytical work for the report outs that we had to do in our meetings. She sat in on our focus sessions and we walked through everything together. She was very inclusive. This is her leadership style, which for me, it helps, especially in heightened situations where tensions are heightened because of everything that has been transpiring over the week. And even when we left today, it was still, the layoffs were still a topic of discussion. And for me, at some point, I feel like leaders should be
They should adapt the inclusive leadership style because you want to get to know the core group or the people, whether it's 1, 3, 5, 10, or 20. You want to get to know the members on your team so you can know how to properly lead them. And in properly leading them, you need to know how to effectively communicate with them. And with effectively communicating, you have to learn all these different personalities. And when everything that transpired this week, she was there all day, 9 to 10 hours with us, walking us through and helping us understand that we will get through it. We are getting close to winding down for the evening, everyone. We have a couple more topics to discuss, and with that, we're going to go straight into adaptive behavior. And with that, we're going to focus on challenges found in this approach. All right, and with that, I'm going to start by reading from my book again, Surrounded by Idiots, Thomas Erickson. Sorry about that. Adaptive behavior. What the rest of us usually see is adaptive behavior. It's an interpretation of a specific situation and choice about how to act. This is the behavior that is put into practice. Think of it as a mask you wear to fit into a given situation. The mask you think is the right one based on the form of adaptive behavior that would allow you to blend into the situation. That gives rise to an interesting reflection. Different people in the same situation put on different masks. Why? Well, we simply interpret the very same surroundings in different ways. Adaptive behavior. So we'll go back to discussing my COO again. So this week, I got caught in a water fountain conversation. It's crazy, right? It just so happened to be the same day that the layoffs transpired. And I previously stated that I give rapid fire questions to my COO whenever I do get to speak with him because it's very rare that I speak to him. And he is not the easiest man to get along with. And he had a lot of formal complaints filed against him because there are great leaders and then there are leaders. There are some that inherit this leadership trait and they are not meant to be leaders, right? And to me, I feel like he is one of those people, and I don't think he really wants to understand every function that falls under his umbrella. And it's disheartening because in our world that we work in med device, forecasting in supply chain is at the forefront. It's at the front of the pack. Without forecasting, how will you know how good or bad you did against what you predicted that you will do? Because that's the same thing. Predictions and forecasting, right? And I got caught in this water fountain conversation. I was going to get me some water and he was talking to a director. And he looked at me, he said, "Hey, Amber." And he gave me a hug. I was completely shocked. And he looked at Beth and told her that I was one of his favorites. Again, I was shocked because I had no idea that this man felt this way about me. But I also believe he was just adapting to his environment. Adapting and again trying to bring the morale up in these uncertain times. Worked for me.
Now it's time to say goodbye. But first, we're going to close with focusing on the characteristics found common in the ELT team at HRM. And the characteristic that's most common amongst the leadership team would be the trait approach. The trait approach adds emphasis in individuals exude certain qualities such as charisma as it aligns with an organization's structure and culture. Furthermore, the trait approach does not translate into the training and development of a leader's employees. The ELT at HRM displays powerful alignment amongst each other, but there's a lack of visibility into the day-to-day challenges within the supply chain team. This hinders their ability to relate and empathize with their direct reports. And after being in the environment for a week, I was ready to go home. I was really ready to go. Again, you saw the alignment amongst the ELT team that was in the building. But they are going to struggle, for a while to understand the culture amongst the direct reports. Because I feel like there's a true disconnect in how the average Joe feels and how the ELT team thinks they feel. And with that, I'll end with saying thank you so much for listening to my first podcast. I truly appreciate you all, and I hope you all tune in next time. But until then, have a good night.